Hi class, welcome to week 2. I just wanted to quickly go over what's going to be expected for week 2. Hopefully by this point you should have your IDE set up. You should have your compiler, be able to write your code, compile your code, run your code, all in your IDE. That should be good to go, and you should have a good kind of refresher in week 1. You'll have a little bit more of a refresher here in week 2, and you'll be talking about, you'll be reading about algorithm development and control statements. Okay, so these are things like if statements, if else, switch statements, while, do while, for loops, when to use each, different types of loops, of iterations, for example, counter-controlled iterations, etc. So you'll be learning about all of this in chapters 4 and 5. So you'll be reading chapters 4 and 5 of the textbook. And then, you can also look through these PowerPoint slides, which are here at this link. So there's a good full set of PowerPoint slides for chapters 4 and 5. Highly recommend that you look through those. Definitely read through the book first and then look through the slides. Just make sure everything makes sense. If anything does not make sense, you can always post at the general discussion, general questions discussion topic. Okay, and I also suggest that you go through the additional practice. So these are the exercises at the back of chapters 4 and chapter 5. I highly recommend that you attempt those, as many as you can. Remember, the way to get good at programming, especially C++, is to practice, practice, practice. Okay, so you can read, but only so much, which is good and important to understand the kind of the fundamental in theory. But in order to really truly grasp the concepts, you have to practice. So I highly recommend that you do these additional this additional practice. Practice doing loops, if else, and switch statements, etc., which you can all do through these exercises in the back of the book. And if you do want to see the solutions after you've attempted them, please reach out. I can provide them for you. So I highly recommend that you attempt these. You also have the quiz. So quiz number 2, so this will be 40 questions, multiple choice. You'll have, again, 3 hours to complete the quiz. Just make sure you complete it by the due date of February 24th at midnight, 11:59 on February 24th on Sunday. So you have a week to complete this quiz. In the same way, you have a week to complete Lab 2. So make sure you read through it thoroughly, and make sure you complete all of the tasks that it's asking you to do. You'll have a week to complete this. Make sure that you read the rubric prior to completing the lab to make sure you've addressed everything that's required for the labs. So at this point, you should be sort of getting your feet wet again and ready to get going. Next week we'll start learning some new topics. So make sure you really have a good understanding of chapters 1 through 5 as we go into chapter 6 next week. Okay, so let's go over Lab 2. So just to quickly go over Lab Assignment 2, as usual, make sure you read the Lab Assignment grading rubric prior to starting Lab Assignment 2. This is going to be how you're graded, so make sure you understand the rubric and what's expected. So some of this includes including the header at the top of each file. So for this assignment, you only have one file, the budget.cpp. Seen here, so you're going to name your program budget.cpp. So you want to just make sure you include the header at the top of the file. Just make sure you include comments throughout your code, and just make sure your code is readable. But again, overall, just read through the lab assignment grading rubric. So for this lab, you'll be writing a budgeting program. So you'll be writing a budgeting program based off this 50-30-20 rule, where basically your after-tax monthly income should be split 50% towards your needs, 30% towards want expenses, and 20% towards savings. Okay, so so you're going to follow the prompts. It's going to ask you to first prompt the user to enter their before-tax yearly income. So notice it's their before-tax yearly income, and then you are to use this input to compute the after-tax monthly income. Okay, so you're going to assume that the income tax is 30% of the before-tax yearly income. Okay, so first step is to convert this to determine the after-tax yearly income, and then determine from this after-tax yearly income, then determine the monthly after-tax income. And then you're going to use this throughout your program. So the next two steps are to create loops that continuously ask the user enter the expense name and amount for needs, and then expense name and amount for wants. Follow these tasks specifically, and then you're going to actually compute the percent towards needs, wants, and savings, and determine for each is the user within budget or over budget, and you're going to print this information out. Okay, so read through this prompt carefully, okay, and complete each task that is asking. And note that you should not be using any arrays for this program, right? We're not doing arrays yet, so do not use arrays to accomplish this task. Okay, and finally, make sure that you zip the file up, the budget.cpp file, which is what you're going to name your program, the file. You're going to zip this up into your a file named lab2, your last name, first name.zip, and submit this through Canvas. Okay, so that should be it. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thanks.